7 spine-chilling encounters with a terrifying neighbor. What was discovered in the night? In the heart of Des Moines, Iowa, life moved smoothly for the Miller family until it didn't. As twilight kissed their manicured lawns, laughter bubbled up from Emily Miller's porch, where she shared piña coladas with friends. The air was sweet with possibility. But just beyond the periphery of that idyllic life loomed Mr. Grayson, the reclusive neighbor known for his wide-brimmed hat, his tall, gangly frame draped in shadows. Locals whispered tales like rustling leaves, tales of ghostly sounds trailing from his yard at night, flickering lights that danced in the darkness, and the eerie feeling of being watched. Kids dared one another to take quick peeks past his creaking front gate, but only a few returned, trembling and gasping, eyes wide with unease, sharing wild stories about spectral figures. Emily blew off their fears, chalking them up to overactive imaginations. Yet each night, as she lay in bed, a cold shiver would creep up her spine, and dreams would coil around her like vines, visions of shadowy figures undulating in sync with flickering candles held in Mr. Grayson's gnarled hands. Was she simply succumbing to the adrenaline of the summer nights? Or were whispers from the neighborhood starting to seep in? Suddenly, the eerie incidents escalated. Everyday items vanished from porches, only to reappear after a full moon. Lights in Grayson's house blinked on and off like a signal, while neighbors exchanged fearful glances. It was a tenuous unity, forged from an unspoken agreement. Don't draw too close to the unknown. But the Millers, buoyed by a mix of curiosity and apprehension, decided to rally the community for an investigation, gathering in their living room for what felt more like a horror movie than a summer gathering. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they shared their bizarre experiences, the tension thickened in the room. Stories turned dark, unraveling tales of Mr. Grayson's past, a family secret that rippled like a chilling breeze through the thoughts of those present. Some claimed he dabbled in long-forgotten rituals, others just murmuring about his old seances. As rumors morphed into new truths, ghost stories transformed into chilling realities. When a sudden silence fell over the living room, Emily caught a glimpse of her friends' apprehensive faces, attentive ears listening for sounds beyond their safety. Names echoed in the air like spells: Haley, Mike, Josh, neighbors who disappeared one by one. What had summoned this palpable dread? Was it possible that among them existed a presence darker than they had ever believed? Steeling herself, Emily stole glances toward Grayson's property. What awaited just beyond her horizon? As she clutched her glass tightly, she felt the thrill of fear and the lure of the unknown. The shadows twisted in the corner of her eye, beckoning her to join the impending confrontation. With the anticipation crackling in the air, she was drawn closer to the threshold, every heartbeat a reminder that choice lay within her grasp. But what lay behind that door? Would freedom or horror be her only outcome, waiting eagerly beyond the night's encroaching veil? As the stars shifted overhead, it felt as if the world were holding its breath alongside her, waiting to see whom she would ultimately become. The air grew heavy with tension as the gathering in the Miller living room reached a fever pitch. Emily could hardly focus on the frantic whispers echoing her own unease. Each face around her was a mirror reflecting fear. It was palpable, thick enough to cut through. The horizon beyond Mr. Grayson's property felt closer, more menacing. Shadows flickered against the window, prompting her attention to dart back toward the darkness that lurked outside, as if it lived, breathing with a mind of its own. Maybe we should just call the police, Mike stammered, visibly shaken. His words hung in the air, wrapped in uncertainty. Would they be believed? Would help even come? Doubts washed over the group like an incoming tide. I don't think the police can help with something like this, Haley replied softly, her voice trembling like a leaf caught in an unseen breeze. They want to understand. A chill ran down Emily's spine. What was happening to their once peaceful neighborhood? The communal bond they shared now seemed riddled with cracks. What began as innocent curiosity had escalated into palpable dread. "Look, we're not going to solve anything by just sitting here," Josh interjected, resolve flashing in his eyes. "We must confront him. We need answers." A mix of horror and exhilaration shot through Emily. The idea of marching across the street toward Mr. Grayson's house sent her heart racing. The very notion of it mingled with excitement and pure terror. "Are you sure? What if he's dangerous?" asked Sarah, her eyes wide, darting around the room as if expecting Mr. Grayson to appear at the window, tall and imposing, his hat shadowing his intent gaze, a figure from their darkest imaginings. "Dangerous or not, the longer we wait, the more this fear consumes us," Josh countered, eyes flashing with determination. As the group eyed one another, one by one, Emily sensed a shift, a collective inhale uniting them. They were all in this together. With steady breaths, they made their decision. The Miller's house filled with murmurs of agreement, pledges to face whatever awaited them. Under the cover of a moonless sky, they ventured out, a small phalanx of anxious energy. Each step toward Mr. Grayson's house felt like descending into an abyss, a dark chasm where echoes of silence reigned supreme. The streetlights flickered overhead, adding a strobe-like effect to their resolve that a strange luminescence beckoned from Grayson's yard as they approached, flickering between shadows. Emily let out a barely audible gasp when a cold wind rushed past her, as if urging her to turn back. A single thought spiraled through her mind. What if it was all true? What if the stories were more than mere urban legends? When they reached the creaking gate that separated them from the unknown, Emily's hand reached for the latch, its metal cool against her skin. She hesitated, uncertainty gripping her. What awaited them on the other side? Questions flooded her thoughts, and then they all heard it, a low, guttural humming coming from deep within the darkness, rich with menace and allure. "Did you guys hear that?" whispered Haley, clutching Josh's arm like a lifeline. They all nodded, eyes wide, stricken with fear. That sound was not just an echo. It was a summoning call, a siren drawing them in closer. Emily shivered, something unspoken vibrating in the air, palpable and thick. Just as she was about to take a step forward, a flash illuminated the yard, an ephemeral burst of light bursting through the darkness, followed by an eerie stillness. The world outside became impossibly quiet, and in that moment, a shape shifted within the shadows, looming and still. "Let us back up," Mike urged, his voice caught in his throat. But it was too late. The figure in the shadows moved forward with uncanny grace, and Emily felt a soul-chilling realization grip her whatever lay ahead. It was not merely a mystery to unravel. It was an encounter that would change everything. What had they awakened? What dark secrets did Mr. Grayson protect? She swallowed hard, nerves firing. And before she could react, a whisper floated through the air, chilling and seductive. "Welcome to my world." The moment hung in the air, thick and electric, as the shadows swirled before them, alive with unspoken threats. Emily felt the weight of the world pressing against her chest. This was no longer just about Mr. Grayson. The entire house felt like an entity, pulsating with malevolence. "Run!" Mike shouted suddenly, tearing his gaze from the figure. Panic swelled in his voice, igniting a primal instinct to flee. But just as quickly as they thought to escape, a low voice resonated from the darkness, rich and heavy with authority. "Stay where you are," it commanded. A chilling calmness woven beneath those words. The figure stepped forward, revealing himself in the muted silver of the moonlight seeping through the clouds. Mr. Grayson stood taller than they had imagined, his silhouette fiercely defined. The brim of his wide hat cast a shadow that obscured his eyes, but his mouth curled into a smile that felt wrong, too wide and curling up in ways that twisted their stomachs. "Fear not, my young visitors," he said, the cadence of his voice like gravel sliding against glass. "I have been expecting you." Emily's heart raced. Expecting them? The words twisted in her mind like a thorn. Was this a trap? She glanced toward her friends, a tiny flicker of resolve igniting within her. "What do you want from us?" Josh asked, pushing his shoulders back defiantly, though his voice quaked with barely contained fear. "Demar." Grayson chuckled softly, a sound that sent shivers skittering down their spines. "Want? Oh, dear boy, the question is not what I want, but what you want. What you seek lies beyond mere mundane concerns." As he spoke, the air around them thickened, shadows stretching like fingers towards the group. Emily could almost feel the darkness wrapping around her, tugging at her very essence. The humming grew louder, and their surroundings shimmered in that strange glow. "Come, let me show you." Grayson gestured toward an open door behind him, its edges pulsating with that eerie light. The threshold seemed to shimmer with dark promises. Panic gripped Emily, but a wild curiosity filled the cracks where fear dwelled. What truths lay beyond that door? The thought twisted her insides even more. "We don't want anything from you," she asserted, though the weakness in her voice betrayed her. "Ah, but you do," Grayson insisted, stepping closer. He pointed toward Emily, singling her out. "You felt it, haven't you? The questions? The whispering shadows of doubt." She shivered at his focus, overwhelmed by the implications. Emily's mind raced. This is insane, she thought, scrambling for rational thought. Yet, the unwavering pull of the door was intoxicating, like a siren's song. The rest of her group stood frozen, unsure whether to flee or step closer to Mr. Grayson smiled wider, revealing teeth too sharp for comfort. "There's more to this world than what you know, my dear friends," he continued, his voice a silken thread drawing them nearer. "And I am but a guide. Your fears, your darkest fears, they can be your greatest strengths. Or your greatest downfall," Haley whispered, her voice trembling as she inched closer to the group, eyes darting between them all. "Will you confront the shadows? Or run back into the light?" The invitation hung between them, tense and vibrant as the shadows danced eagerly around the edges of their reality. Emily felt her breath quicken as she struggled to meet Mr. Grayson's gaze, seeking truth in those penetrating shadows. Suddenly, without warning, the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, a warning tremor rumbling from unseen depths. "What happens if we enter?" Mike's voice cracked, uncertainty pouring over his words. A pause filled the air, the moment taut like a wire on the verge of snapping. Mr. Grayson watched them intently, his eyes dark and fathomless, a storm brewing within the depths. "You will face what lies beneath your skin, and the truth shall be revealed." At that moment, the ground shook violently, and the sky above them erupted with thunderous roars. The very essence of the night seemed ready to explode, and as the shadows drew closer, Emily understood. Either step forward into the unknown or succumb to terror of the darkness enveloping them. "Decide now." Grayson's voice thundered above the raging winds, his figure looming and vast against the chaos. Emily felt her resolve harden. They would not turn back. "Together," she whispered, and her friends nodded, determination igniting their fears into something fierce. But just as they stepped forward, a blinding flash struck down, illuminating the night, and in that split second, they caught sight of something that would haunt them forever. A truth so dark and twisted it shattered the boundaries of what they thought they knew. What would they see? What remnants of the night would linger in their minds? Shadows that would never let them rest. The light vanished as quickly as it had appeared, plunging them back into a darkness that felt suffocating, as if the air itself had thickened with dread. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she blinked rapidly, searching for the source of what they had just glimpsed. Instinctively, she grabbed Mike's arm, her fingers trembling against his skin. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the storm gathering in the sky. "I don't know," Mike stammered, eyes wide with fear. "I thought I was seeing things." But Emily knew they had all felt it, that electric pulse of revelation coursing through the air. A truth that was heavy and dark, lurking just beyond the reach of their understanding. Josh took a breath, nerves vibrating through him as he peered into the darkness, searching for the door that had called to them moments before. "Do we really want to find out what's behind that door?" Haley murmured, her words laced with doubt. Her eyes darted around them, as if the shadows themselves were seeping into their very souls, threatening to pull them under. "Whatever it is, we can't go back now," Emily affirmed, pushing the doubt aside. "We've come too far. We need to confront all of it." Mr. Grayson's voice cut through the growing tumult, rich with an unsettling allure. "Ah, how brave of you. Many would choose the safety of ignorance. Yet, many truths are waiting, festering in the corners of the soul." He stepped back and gestured toward the door again, as if it had been awaiting their decision all along. That a chilling breeze swept through the clearing, sending shivers down Emily's spine. It almost felt like the house itself exhaled, a slow, deep breath of impatience, of hunger. She looked at her friends, fear-stricken but resolute. It was plain on their faces. They were committed to this madness together. Josh clenched his fists. Determination ignited within him. "We face it, whatever it is." With a shared nod, they advanced toward the door, the shadows curling around their feet like hungry serpents. Emily felt her heart thunder in rhythm with the storm above. The roar of the wind coursed through her veins, drowning out any lingering thoughts of retreat. As they stepped across the threshold, she expected a wave of darkness to wash over them. Instead, the opposite happened. A surge of light erupted from within the room, bathing them in an eerie glow. But it was not a comforting light. It flickered unevenly, revealing glimpses of the grotesque, unexpected symbols and mementos lining the walls, each etched with a story of terror. Familiar faces peered down at them from framed photos, all distorted and unervingly grinning. She could see her own reflection in the framing glass, alongside the others, each one blurry, eerily different from the image she recognized. The door slammed shut behind them with a deafening crack, surprising them all. "What is this?" Mike shouted, panic rising once more. "Welcome," Grayson's voice echoed around them, taunting, filling the corners of the room like smoke. "To the chamber of your nightmares." The air thickened, heavy with dread, making it hard to breathe. The room itself seemed to react to their presence, pulsating as if it were alive, walls ebbing closer and closer, compressing them into a nightmare-fueled vortex of claustrophobia. "Look!" Haley cried, pointing toward the far corner. Shadows danced there, swirling violently. Suddenly, they coalesced into a figure, one that was painfully familiar yet mismatched with something darker. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she recognized it. A version of herself, eyes hollow, grinning wider than she thought possible, a grotesque mimicry of her own being. The revelation struck her like ice, and she stumbled back, the laughter echoing in her mind like a ringing bell. Each of her friends turned towards the manifestation, fear fueling the rush of realization that not only them awaited in this room. "What do we do?" Josh's voice trembled, a rush of frantic energy coursing through the group. "Stand together," Emily shouted, pushing against the incoming dread. "This is part of it. We'll face it. We can't let it take us." But as her words hung in the air, the alternate Emily stepped closer, a sinister smile painting her face. "Why fight it? Embrace the truth. Let it swallow you whole." A shiver ran through the group as uncertainty gripped them tighter than the shadows. What lay ahead? What darkness was waiting to consume them? Just when they thought they couldn't hold on much longer, a blinding light flared in the center of the room, revealing more than anyone could bear. What secrets would it unveil, and would they have the strength to confront the demons that lived within? Their future flickered uncertainly, like a candle struggling against the wind. Desperation clawed at them, and in that moment, a realization loomed large. The horrors they faced were not just of the night, they were a reflection of their very own shadows. And as the figure's laughter echoed, the air thick with unspoken truths, they had to ask themselves, were they ready for what came next? The blinding light pulsed, illuminating the chamber and casting jagged shadows that danced wildly on the walls. The grotesque version of Emily moved closer, her smile widening, teeth gleaming like daggers. It was as if the very air thickened, wrapping around them like a suffocating cloak of anxiety. "Who are you?" Emily demanded, her voice trembling though she fought to show strength. The other Emily tilted her head, mock curiosity glimmering in her hollow eyes. "I'm you," she whispered, each syllable dripping with malice. "The you that you hide away. The darkness you refuse to acknowledge." As she spoke, the very walls of the chamber seemed to pulse in time with her voice, closing in ever so slightly. "Get back," Mike shouted, stepping forward, hands balled into fists. But within that moment, the room shifted, the walls expanding and contracting like a living organism, pushing them closer together. They all felt it, their fears swirling, thickening, taking shape alongside the phantom of Emily. "Stand your ground," Josh urged, shaky but determined. The group huddled closer, encouraged by his bravery. "We can't let it in, whatever it is." For every breath they took, the figure laughed softly, that chilling sound echoing around them like broken glass. "You think you can resist?" A flick of her wrist, and the light pulsated, revealing blurred images of their pasts, their most intimate insecurities laid bare, moments of shame, regret, hurt. Each one splintered off the darkness, forcing them to confront the very reason they stood there, bound by terror. This isn't real. Haley screamed, barely holding on to her sanity as she skirmished back, grasping onto Emily's arm. It can't be. Oh, but it is, the figure purred, her voice slithering into their minds. Your secrets, your greatest fears. They are all here, waiting for you. The shadows coiled around their feet like serpents, whispering half-formed thoughts, breeding doubt. You will never escape. You will always be lost. Emily felt the temperature drop suddenly, a chill seeping into her bones like ice water. She gritted her teeth and, with a fierce clarity, realized what was at stake. We can beat this. Can you? The dark reflection taunted. How can you defeat a truth that you refuse to see? As the laughter crescendoed, vibrating through the air, Josh let out a roar of defiance. You're not us. He charged forward, as if bashing against an unseen wall, but tripped in the haze of confusion, falling to his knees. Josh! Emily cried, fear cutting through her as she glanced towards him. In her moment of distraction, she could feel the presence of her dark self advancing, closing the distance. Emily, help him! Mike shouted, eyes frantic. Emily whipped back, a torrent of confusion and determination swirling inside of her. She swiftly moved toward Josh, grabbing his outstretched hand. The moment of contact ignited a spark. As her fingers curled around his, a warmth enveloped them, pushing back against the cold grip of the shadows. We can't give in. We have to fight. The light flared brighter, expelling the darkness, retreating momentarily. But the malevolent figure recoiled only to expand, multiplying into warped versions of each of them. Haley, Mike, Josh each was being confronted with the very essence of their worst fears, wrapped in grotesque forms designed to strike. Don't let them in. Emily screamed, feeling the ground tremble beneath her feet as the shadows clashed with the light. And just as it seemed hope might flicker out, the air cracked like thunder and a voice boomed, rich and powerful. You can face this together or be consumed alone. What was this force? A sudden surge of bravery coursed through each of them, and they realized together they wielded power greater than the fragmented darkness. What would happen next? Would they break free from the masks of their shadows, or would they fall victim to their fears? The very air crackled with uncertainty, holding their fates in a fragile balance as they prepared for the final confrontation. Soon the echoes would settle, but the question remained. Would they emerge whole, or would this chamber claim them for its own? The air vibrated with tension, and a stillness fell over the chamber as the shadows trembled at the oncoming clash. The grotesque figures of their darkest selves lurked nearby, breathing heavily, inching ever closer. Emily's heart raced, pounding like a war drum in her chest. It was now or never. Together, she shouted, voice trembling but strong. The words ignited hope like a sudden spark in dry grass. Each of them tightened their grip. Emily held on to Josh. Mike reached for Haley. In that charged moment, they became a unified force, standing against their fears. Let us do this, Mike yelled, rallying them as the grotesque figures shifted restlessly, their twisted forms flickering like faulty images on an old screen. Without warning, the darkest version of Emily lunged, teeth bared, and the light flickered violently. You think you can trap what is already inside you? She screeched, a twisted mix of hatred and desperation. The taunt sliced through the air, echoing the vulnerability they all felt. I am not afraid of you, Emily cried out, pushing her fear aside, the certainty tightening her chest. She grasped Josh's hand tighter, feeling his warmth radiate against the chill of uncertainty. Suddenly, the shadows froze in place, momentarily immobilized by Emily's declaration. This isn't us. It's just an illusion. Haley's voice came from behind, a beacon of strength. They felt their fears recoil, flickering like dying embers. With newfound courage, Josh leaped forward, fueled by primal adrenaline. You don't own us, he shouted, charging at the grotesque figure of himself, arms wide, ready to embrace the darkness. The soft laugh from the darkness subsided, replaced by an unsettling silence. Then Josh collided with his dark twin. The impact sent shockwaves through the very essence of the chamber, spiraling energy around them. The grotesque version split like glass shattering, revealing brittle fragments that dissolved away. As Emily witnessed this, the thought surged through her, maybe they could win this battle. Keep pushing, she urged, her voice fierce. The others rallied around her, forming a circle, hands linked like sturdy roots of an ancient tree weathering the storm. As they took a collective step forward, a resounding pulse erupted, and the shadows churned violently. The figures began to change, melting back into their original forms, distorting under the weight of their shared resolve. I see you, Mike cried as his distorted shadow flickered, revealing his fear of failure, the haunting worry that he would never make it. But I won't let you define me. As he let the fear wash over him, he shoved it aside. The shadow melted away, revealing his strong figure once again. Each of them bravely faced their shadows, declaring their strength, their truths, and their resilience. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling of unease, a whisper of doubt simmering just beneath the surface. What if this was temporary? What if the darkness simply disguised itself, lying in wait for another chance? Watch out, Haley suddenly shouted, pointing. New shadows rose, bubbling back into existence. The air crackled again, and it became clear this was far from over. The shadows were regrouping, reborn with even darker intentions, and the ominous laughter of the twisted Emily reverberated. We've only begun, her voice echoed, layered with a sinister promise. What had they awakened in this chamber? The swirling horror cloaked them with renewed fear, each member feeling the gravity of the battle ahead. Stay strong, Emily whispered to herself, determination boiling inside her once more. We can't let it win. Yet, deep down, a pulse of dread bloomed, reminding her that in the course of facing the darkness, deeper truths lay ahead. As they prepared to engage again, resolve building within them, the true test lingered on the horizon. Would they conquer their shadows? Or would the darkness rise once more, stronger than before? The shadows flickered with an eerie persistence, the chamber's dim light bathing everything in an unsettling glow. Emily's stomach twisted as new darkness emerged, crawling and swirling like an ink blot spreading across paper. Haley gasped, pressing closer to Mike, and Emily felt the cold grip of fear clutching her heart tighter. Get ready, Emily shouted, her voice surprisingly steady. They needed to fight again, to push back the darkness that sought to engulf them. Don't let them in. The grotesque silhouettes were morphing, gathering strength from their fears, becoming clearer, sharper, a reflection of the deepest turmoil in each of them. Emily felt her own fear tonight, a terror of failure that lodged at the back of her throat like a rock. Would they be enough? Look, Josh's voice broke through the tension, pointing at the figures. They're trying to twist everything we've faced against us. The twisted form of his dark self snarled back at him. You think you can convince yourself otherwise? It hissed, eyes glinting. You're nothing without fear. It's the only thing that makes you real. Josh's face hardened. I am real. I define who I am. With a raw roar, he lunged once again, a second attack fueled by both anger and the flickering embers of hope. The grotesque version fractured again, splintering into darkness with a resounding crack. The surge of energy rippled through the group. Keep moving. Don't stop. Emily pressed on, turning to Mike and Haley. They had to outpace the shadows. They had to outmaneuver their own fears. Rallying each other, they stepped forward, pushing back against the encroaching dark tide. But the shadows held their ground, weaving through their feet, seeming to come alive, urging despair. You're all just kids playing in the dark, mocked the twisted Haley, her voice twisted like a knife. Why don't you just give up? Emily shuddered, recalling the times she felt just like the shadow said, lost, hopeless, small. But she shook it off, knowing she wasn't fighting alone. No, we aren't afraid of who we were. We're here now. The shadows recoiled, momentarily blinded by the light of their shared strength, their collective promise. But it was fleeting. They needed something more, something decisive. With a shaky breath, Emily took a step forward, alone but not alone. Listen, she yelled into the abyss of shadows. We are the sum of our experiences. Fear doesn't have power over what we choose to be. You don't own us. As her voice echoed, the chamber vibrated, a crackling resonance that transformed the air around them. The shadows began to pulse, surging forward, yet wavering as if caught between two worlds. Were they weakening? Melt away, let us live, Mike shouted, springing into action beside Emily, launching forward with all his weight. The figures ripped apart, fading, but more shadows rose behind them, defiant and hungry. We must do this together. All of us, Haley urged. They huddled close, forming a chain of strength. Their hands squeezed tight, electricity passing between them, igniting a wildfire of resolve. Then the sudden wind swept through the chamber, snatching away the phantoms, leaving only whispers. An oppressive silence blanketed them, suffocating and heavy. Emily's breath caught, the silence amplifying her doubts, making her wonder, was this truly a victory, or a lull before a far greater storm? Just then, the laughter returned, a high, mocking cackle that echoed around the chamber, sending shivers down their spines. "You're not safe yet," it sneered, slithering through the air. "You just awakened something far worse." In a blinding rush, the shadows gathered once more, swirling into a thick fog that swallowed everything in its path. Panic surged, but like a heartbeat, Emily's determination surged back. They had come too far to turn back now. What monstrous truths lay hidden in this darkness? What would they unearth when the storm broke? The chamber trembled, and with it, the reality of their connection, their bond, would soon be tested, perhaps at the cost of everything they knew. The howling wind battered the walls of the chamber as shadows coiled tighter, turning the air thick with dread. Emily could feel the weight of fear pressing down on her, every heartbeat echoing like a war drum. The laughter hung in the air, its sinister notes wrapping around them, feeding off their anxiety. "Get ready," she whispered, barely audible, as Mike, Josh, and Haley held onto each other. Their connection felt fragile under the onslaught of creeping darkness. The swirling fog twisted like fingers poised to snatch them away. "Now," Josh yelled, breaking the silence, a shot of adrenaline coursing through him. Their chains of courage unlinked, and they broke formation, charging at the shadows. As they ran, the laughter morphed into a cacophony of sinister whispers, each voice dripping with derision. "You are nothing, you can't escape." The chamber flickered in and out of coherence, reality bending around them. Emily felt her chest tighten, a familiar weight of uncertainty, as memories began to swirl inside her mind. The echoes of past failures surfaced, the forgotten moments of vulnerability that made her feel so small. She hesitated, nightmarish doubts clawing at her resolve. But then, through the haze, she caught sight of Haley's fierce eyes, igniting a spark within her. "We can do this," Haley screamed, defiance shining as she thrust her fist into the air, rallying the others. "We're not defined by our fears. Let us show them." Pulsing with renewed vigor, they ran side by side, the energy between them tangible. As they pressed forward, the shadows buckled, recoiling in surprise. A fleeting glimpse of light broke through a pinprick of hope in the encroaching darkness. But that moment was short-lived. The shadows, shaped by ferocity and fury, surged back with a vengeance. They twisted and morphed, forming grotesque images of the past moments each of them had hoped to forget. The shadows consumed their surroundings, nostalgia painted like horrors against the damp stone walls. "Is this all you are?" An echoing voice barked. It pierced through Emily like a shard of ice. "Your failures? Your regrets? You are weak." With a deep, trembling breath, Emily spoke out. "We are not weak. We are stronger together." Each declaration felt like a nail driven into the encroaching gloom. She could feel the group rallying behind her, desperation weaving with determination. "Push them back," Mike shouted, swinging his arms wide, striving to break the barrier of dread that surrounded them. The air sparkled with their shared hope, a flicker amidst the shadow's maw. But the shadows had other plans. The laughter shifted, a deep, rumbling sound that reverberated through their bones, sending chills spiraling down their spines. "You think you can fight me? You have yet to see your true fears. Your greatest weakness lies not outside, but within." As the shadows closed in, tendrils reaching for their minds, the chamber began to tremble violently. Stone walls cracked, dust cascading down like ominous rain. A sharpened wail pierced the air, reverberating with emotions long buried: self-doubt, shame, heartbreak. Each note rang in their ears, overwhelming. Emily stumbled, the ground threatening to collapse beneath her. "Don't give in," she urged, as they formed a tight cluster again, focusing on their connection. "We can do this." Just then, a horrid revelation struck her, something dark and powerful that had remained buried in her soul. Was this darkness truly an external force? Or was it the manifestation of their shared pain, a reflection of their deepest fears? "Enough!" They all shouted in unison, voices melding together. With a final burst of will, they faced the heart of the storm, at once trepidatious yet resolute. And then, silence. The shadows halted, hovering in a stillness that choked the air. They swirled, uncertain now, as if questioning the very foundation of their existence. "What if we're not afraid?" Emily whispered, her heart racing. "What if we face it together?" The darkness pulsed violently, ready to retaliate, but it only drew them in, closer to the edge of something unknown. Just past that oppressive fog, what awaited them, a revelation, or an even darker abyss? As a jagged beam of light shimmered from within the blackness, they braced themselves, a wave of fear and courage crashing within them. Something far greater than fear was lurking just beyond the center of this vortex. Would they find salvation or be swallowed whole? In that fleeting moment, the ground shook fiercely. What dreadful entity would confront them next, and how would they withstand it? The ground trembled beneath them, and the oppressive silence shattered like glass. A blast of wind howled into the chamber, whipping their hair and clothes about, pulling them into the chaos. The shadows skittered, retreating just out of sight, but a new presence loomed, a figure emerging slowly from the depths of darkness. Emily squinted, heart thrumming like a stampede, as the edges of the darkness twisted and folded. The light flickered, illuminating a tall form shrouded in tattered, black robes. Its face remained obscured, but Emily felt its gaze pierce into her soul, searching, seeking her fears. An icy whisper curled around her, ice creeping into her veins. "You think you understand fear? Let me show you." Panic surged as the shadows recoiled, forming grotesque images swirling around the figure like a dark halo. Memories raced through Emily's mind: deceit, betrayal, the anguish of abandoned dreams. Every one of them clawed at her, vying for attention, amplifying her dread. She forced herself to take a step forward, but her feet felt as though they were rooted to the ground. "Don't look back!" Haley screamed, her voice rising above the maelstrom. Emily could see the determination in her eyes, bright and fierce, pushing against the encroaching darkness. Mike gripped Emily's hand tightly, the warmth of his skin anchoring her. "We need to believe. Together." The unseen entity just smiled, an ominous gesture that turned its features shadowy, indistinct. "Belief? A feeble weapon against true fear," it mocked, shadows crawling around its form. "Let us unwrap that hope of yours." Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, whipping around them like a violent storm. Vivid images momentarily broke free of their grip, forcing each of their deepest fears to the surface. Josh grimaced, his face pale as an old memory unfolded: his failure to save a friend from drowning. The water, icy and suffocating, flooded his thoughts. He staggered back, eyes wide. "Fight it!" Emily shouted, remembering the strength of their connection, the bond they had forged. "We can't let it win." They grabbed onto one another's arms, pulling closer, forming an unbreakable chain against the onslaught of terror. "Remember what we are," Mike urged, urgency filling his voice. Their thoughts melded, battling the dark tide. Pain, joy, heartache, and triumph flowed through them, illuminating their collective essence. The entity's laughter morphed into a screech, distorting reality around them. "You think you can resist? Your fears are woven into you, like threads of your very being. Give in, and you may yet find peace. They are yours to embrace." The shadows began to swirl violently again, wrapping tighter around them like a noose. Emily felt the pressure in her chest constricting painfully. Memories flared, moments of guilt, regret, and loss igniting like firecrackers, leaving her breathless. "No," she gasped, pushing against the relentless tidal wave of darkness. "We are stronger than this. Our fears don't define us." That final declaration rang out like a battle cry, shaking the very walls. Energy pulsed in the chamber, igniting the air with a golden glow that began to push the shadows back. The entity faltered, uncertainty flickering in its form. But just as they thought they were gaining ground, the floor beneath them cracked wider, tiles breaking apart, revealing a chasm that breathed darkness. The pull of the abyss drew at them, threatening to shatter their resolve. With a desperate mind, Emily glimpsed a ray outside, a light so dazzling that it momentarily blinded her. We can reach it. Together. But doubt bubbled up again within her. What if plunging into that light revealed a truth darker than they could handle? What if they weren't ready? The invisible force around them began to close in, and the room shook again, monstrous laughter echoing louder. The stakes had never been higher. Could they unite and leap into the unknown? Or would they be consumed by shadows of the past? As they teetered on the edge, hope and dread clashed violently inside them, and the chasm yawned wider, ready to engulf them whole. What awaited them in the depths, safety or the ultimate nightmare? The shadows twisted chaotically, as if caught in a tempest, painting the chamber with shades of despair. The oppressive weight of fear pressed in on Emily and her friends, squeezing their hearts tight. They stood at the brink, facing not just the horde of shadows, but their darkest selves, the harshest truths they had long buried. "Stay where you are, or you'll be lost," the dark figure whispered, its voice a chilling melody that echoed through the room. It lurked like a predator, waiting for weakness to be exposed, but determination surged through Emily's veins. "We are not afraid," she shouted, her voice slicing through the encroaching darkness. The shadows pulsed, wavering as if surprised. It was a moment of power, flickering hope refracting off their collective fear. "We've come too far to let this win." Mike, his jaw set with fierce resolve, squeezed Emily's hand. "Together," he echoed, rallying their spirits. Haley and Josh, hearts pounding, moved closer, forming a protective circle. They drew strength from one another, their fears melding into a single force. The dark figures thrashed violently, and in that moment, realization washed over Emily like a crashing wave. "These shadows," she gasped, "they're not just about our past fears. They're the parts of us we haven't accepted." She took a step closer to the dark version of herself, each heartbeat sinking with her surging courage. "What if we embraced our truth instead?" she proposed, her voice a quiet thunder that wrapped around her friends like a cocoon. "All of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Only then can we truly be free." The dark figure twisted, its laughter reverberating ominously. "Embrace it? You think that'll save you?" Shadows coiled tighter, almost suffocating. But Emily pushed through, eyes locked on the truth within her shadow. "I don't need to pretend anymore," she declared, her voice unwavering. "I am flawed. I have fears, but I also have strength. This isn't a curse. It's a part of who I am." A crackle of light burst forth as her words ignited the chamber, raising something new from the depths of despair. The phantoms mirrored her words, their grotesque forms flickering as waves of energy surged through the air. Josh, emboldened by Emily's strength, shouted, "I accept my mistakes. They made me stronger." "Me too," Haley chimed in, fire dancing in her eyes. "I own my insecurities." One by one, the group filled the chamber with declarations of acceptance, and the shadows began to tremble, fluttering as if caught in a storm. The grotesque figures contorted, distorting, losing shape. "This is impossible," the dark figure hissed. With renewed resolve, they raised their hands, palms outward, the warmth of togetherness suffusing the air. "No more," they shouted in unison, channeling the energy of their acceptance into a radiant pulse. Light surged forth, illuminating not just the chamber, but their very souls. The collision of light and dark erupted an explosion of colors, a meld of past hurt and newfound strength. The walls expanded, colliding against fear, darkness spiraling further away as their acceptance radiated power. Emily felt a rush of clarity as her dark counterpart dissolved in the brilliance. As silence fell, the silhouettes faded, replaced by a kaleidoscope of warmth. "It's done," Emily breathed heavily. Their fears had transformed, woven into the fabric of their being, no longer obsidian shadows but facets of a self they could embrace. The chamber began to collapse, walls crumbling as the shadows lost their hold. "Let us go," Mike urged, grabbing Emily's hand and pulling her toward the glowing exit that materialized before them. They surged forward together, an unstoppable force, crossing the threshold into a world washed in light, their world, their reality, redesigned by transformation. Emily felt her heart race with each step. The shadows dispersed, their fears now mere reflections guiding them into the dawn of acceptance. As they emerged into the cool night air, hearts alight with hope, they turned back to the remnants of the chamber, a symbol of victory, of resilience. They had faced their depths together, and through that, emerged renewed. With tears glistening in her eyes, Emily embraced her friends tightly, feeling the pulse of connection thrum through her. "We did it. We faced the darkness," she whispered, overwhelmed by gratitude. The corners of their world had shifted, but the ties between them flourished stronger than ever. They had crossed the storm. Now, as their lives resumed in vibrant hues, she couldn't help but feel the thrill of possibilities ahead. They had uncovered their deepest truths, not buried in the shadows, but blazing under the light of acceptance. In the silence of the night, Emily could finally breathe. She realized that true freedom lay in understanding both fear and courage, a delicate dance that defined them, but no longer held them captive. And this was just the beginning. If you love this journey and want to see more like it, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss these exclusive stories. Smash that like button to keep the algorithm buzzing and help us reach more fans. Flood the comments below with your thoughts. What did this story mean to you? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who you think need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.